Welcome to Landlord Diaries, where we talk about midterm rentals and the opportunities behind them. We'll share landlord stories, talk about maximizing investment potential, and discuss how to live the very best landlord life. This podcast is proudly brought to you by Furnished Finder, the place for everything midterm rentals. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy our content.
It's your host team for the Landlord Diaries. My name is Kelly Bailey. I come to you as a midterm rental enthusiast in the Austin, Texas area. My co-host, Katie Lyon, has midterm rentals in a variety of states and lives in Denver, Colorado. And Katie, I just have to add today, we have hit a record. We've had our most guests present on a podcast today with 5.
That's true. And we got to talk with, really the main focus was Sophia Hawn, who is 12, I believe, and her lovely parents. And they have turned their real estate investing business into a family business. And Sophia is super involved, and this girl is going places. It was really, really cool to see all the things she's involved in and that she's already learned about and her passion. And you guys, if you're a parent, you're going to want to listen to this one and think, okay, I need to get my kid doing what this kid's doing. So listen up, enjoy, and we're so excited. Let's go.
Today, we are redirecting our focus to raising up the next generation of real estate investors. Can you imagine buying your first property in your teens? The Hawn family in the Nashville, Tennessee area are doing just that. Parents Trevor and Katie Hawn involve their 12-year-old daughter, Sophia, in many aspects of their midterm rental portfolio. Today, we experience the mindset of a young investor and her big dreams in the real estate investing world. Hawn family, thank you all for being here. How are you doing today?
Good.
Great. Excited.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
You are welcome. We are so honored. And fun fact, we met the Hawn family at the Midterm Rental Summit in San Diego this year. And our CEO, Brian Payne, such a down-to-earth guy, he was talking with Trevor, and he was just so inspired of how Trevor gets Sophia involved in the business and said, we have to have an episode. And I, on a separate occasion at the Midterm Rental Summit, was talking to Katie, thinking, oh, we need to have an episode with Katie. And then little did I know, the world's connected, and here we are with the Hawn family with all 3 of you. So why don't we start with y'all giving us a quick overview of what you enjoy most about being a real estate investor. And Katie, let's start with you on this one.
Sure, no problem. So my grandfather was in real estate investing, and so it kind of made sense to me how it helped them in retirement and everything. And the other thing, I love to take care of people, and so the people part of the business is really more me. I do the, speaking with leads and trying to make sure everybody has a spot to go to that comes through Nashville. And so I just really love to check on our guests and see how they're doing and make sure that they have everything they need for their stay. And I just love caring for people in that way. So that's my favorite part.
Awesome. Sophia?
I think real estate is a great way to fuel your passion. And my passion personally is acting. And I think it's a great way to bring in money so that you can support yourself and your family. And yeah.
Awesome. And last but not least, Trevor.
I think it's when you look at other investments and asset classes, I think it's really hard to argue like all the amazing things that you can get from real estate, right? And so, when I grew up in a family business, and I always wanted to have that for us too. So this is our version of a family business, and we're just having a blast doing it. So
it is so fun working together.
Yeah. And you can tell the conversation I had with you guys prior to this, it shows how much y'all enjoy investing. So that's awesome. Let's see. So a little bit more about your journey. Y'all started investing in 2019. Both of you still have full-time jobs. You've got Sophia, 12 years old, and then a daughter that is 9 years old, I believe as well, right?
Yeah, so I do still have a full-time job. Katie's actually now full-time in real estate. So she has her
Yeah.
agent license and she does manage, a lot of the day-to-day operations of our rental business, both the long-term and the midterm. Uh, so yeah, that's how it looks for us right now. And then of course Sophia, full-time student, so still gets involved in the day-to-day operations of the business a little bit as well. So.
And if I remember correctly, I believe y'all homeschool both girls, correct?
That's right. Sophia's been homeschooled ever since kindergarten, right? Yeah.
Do you like homeschooling, Sophia? Do you have a favorite subject or anything?
Specifically, it's good for my sister because she was born in September. And so she has always been on the edge about whether she was in third or fourth grade or second or third grade, that kind of thing. And so she's able to do like pretty much whatever subject, whatever level, whatever thing. And actually, when we were in elementary school, is in elementary school, but she went to a hybrid school, and that's 3 days a week. And that school just allows her to pretty much just do whatever class she wants and be in whatever grade she needs to be for each subject. And I actually am able to do that too with my new one. It's 2 days a week, and it's also hybrid. And you get to pick your classes, and you get to pick like what grade each of those classes are, and you pretty much, it's kind of like college, and you get your own schedule. It's really nice. So I think homeschooling allows you to have a lot of freedom, whether it's what grade, what class, what subject. It's really good. Also, being in pajamas while learning is also high.
Yes, Katie and I understand that working from home.
So go ahead. It's really just about how you integrate kind of school and real estate for real life learning. And just a heads up for everyone, we are all also leading our lives here. So you might hear a dog bark in the background. You might hear the lawn being mowed. It's because we all got stuff to do, man. So forgive us and be patient if you hear kids or dogs or lawnmowers or traffic.
So yes, excuse the mowing outside, but we have been homeschooling, for a while now, and Sophia's been more able to help and wanting to help. She'll see us doing things with the business, and she's very aware of what we're doing and when and why now. And so she will say, okay, well, the interior designer needs plans for the house. I've got an interior design app on my iPad. Can I sketch out? Can I have some time on my iPad to sketch out the dimensions of the rooms and lay them out so the interior designer can, look at the layout and be able to plan what goes where and what will fit in the space best? And so we did that together, and it was pretty successful, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to talk about what the interior designer said?
So they were an interior designer. They hired her for this house, and the first time he just wrote it out on a piece of paper, and she was like, do you have any other way of getting this to me? This just doesn't
I have notoriously
work.
bad handwriting, and so it's not a shocker.
And she was like, I guess I can work for this, but okay. And then the second time I did it for this lower unit, and she was like, wow, this is so much better than the last one. Next time, can you do this again, please? And they didn't know that it was me that did it. They just thought it was them who tried something different.
That's amazing. That's one of the best things about kids your age, man. You guys are fully adapted to digital. It's so cool. Even my son, I was like, okay, I have this Google sheet, and he goes, oh, great. I know I'm all set then. And I'm
That's
like,
awesome.
great.
The
Okay.
other thing that's kind of neat about the homeschooling, right, is so what they were talking about, what Sophia was talking about with Celestine, right? So it's very project based. They pick and choose when they do it, which is like a real job, right? Like that's what we all have to do. We have to choose when we do things. And I think it also frees up a lot of extra time to pursue other interests. Well, Sophia, when she was in her previous school, she started her own business selling, making and selling her own lotions and soaps and things like that. And it was only because she had the time to be able to choose that in her schedule to pursue that kind of endeavor. So I think there's also something to be said for that as well.
Yeah, and she does other things for us. And she'll even volunteer. Like we were at, we have a networking group that we lead, and it's the Mid Tennessee Midterm Network. And we were at the meeting, and she said, "Mom, I can take notes." And I said, "Great, Sophia." And I thought, I'm going to get some notes from her. Like I read back through them, and it was like I was at the meeting. And she said, "Yeah, we learned how to take notes last year in 6th grade." And I thought, okay, great. You're our note taker from now on, and I will pay you for this, So she's finding ways to do school projects, to sometimes get paid for them, and to really have a significant contribution to the family and to the business, which is great.
I will literally go around and say, I will do this for money. About 30% of the time, it actually turns out I can do that for money. You gotta, take a shot.
Definitely have to take a shot. I think, and I have notes from our first conversation. I'm pretty sure you incorporate Chat GPT into some of your stuff too, right?
Today's episode is proudly sponsored by Furnished Finder, the ultimate platform for hassle-free midterm rentals. Whether you're a seasoned landlord or just getting started, Furnished Finder is the place for you. With Furnished Finder, you can say goodbye to booking fees and hello to direct bookings for 30-day plus stays. It's a win-win for everyone involved. So if you're ready to experience the joys of midterm renting and take a load off your landlord's shoulders, head over to FurnishedFinder.com today. We make it easy to get started. We're grateful to Furnished Finder for sponsoring this episode, and we're sure you'll love what they have in store for you.
Yeah, I get paid for, basically on Airbnb, you have to title all of the pictures, and it's shown that when you title the pictures, you get more, people check it out more. And so I use ChatGPT to I just take down a couple of things from the picture, like coffee maker, natural light, dining table, blue, stuff like that, and then type it in, and it gives me like thousands of words, and then I bunch it down to 100 words, and then put it into Airbnb, which takes some time.
Definitely. Do you have, I'm putting you on the spot here, so if you don't have one, let me know. But do you have a favorite title that you've created? Like, yes, this one is amazing.
Oh, so I think especially things with, this is hard, but I think that my favorite has probably been anything with like a kitchen in it, because it just has a lot going on. Whereas some things are just like, there's a chair in this photo. It's really hard to make it sound, good.
Okay.
And so there's a lot of stuff going on in them, like a kitchen, a bedroom, a closet, stuff like that are easier to write than others because they have, a lot more going on in them. So it does give you a lot more adjectives than stuff that's a little more simple. So it just, all of it's kind of a little bit hard. So
Sure, definitely. We experience that as adults too.
Sophia, tell us a little bit about your financial goals, because I'm guessing that most 12-year-olds don't have financial goals, maybe except buying like the next video game or their next outfit or something. So I know that you have such a good education about investments and finances that I want to know kind of what are your goals? Where do you want to end up?
So I have this thing called Project 16, and I created it like 1 or 2 years ago, and it basically said that every month I would take a third of what I earned that month and put it into an investment account, and I would do that until I was 16 years old, and then I would take the money out of it and use it to invest in a rental property. I am hoping that it is a duplex or a triplex or a quadplex or etc., so that I can live in one of the units and then rent out the others while I'm in college, because, yeah.
That's so smart. When you talk about that, it takes me back to my college self that, was getting a little feedback from my parents of, hey, you should buy real estate. And I just wasn't there mentally yet to really understand how to properly shop for real estate, because for whatever reason in my mind, I'm like, yes, I'm going to buy a property. I'm going to find roommates to rent the rooms out to, but it must have an atrium. I only want a house that has an atrium. And then now my more established adult self says, wow, that was really limiting, and atriums probably don't add a lot of value to the resale of a home. So now I'm very glad I didn't do that. But your style, you can tell you're already picking up the right ways to go about real estate at such a young age. It's really impressive.
Yeah, and this is cool because I think Sophia has such a leg up and she's already thinking about that. Kelly, you were like thinking about it, but maybe like, a scotch off base.
A little bit.
And a little bit. And I grew up, my childhood, we rented for a really long time, and then we would own, and then we would rent. And it never even crossed my mind until I was 32 and we were moving houses, and I was like, what if we just kept that other house? So I think this is so cool that you're getting such a leg up. And I think also, all of us here in a little roundtable format, it just shows that it's never too early, it's never too late to get started. What matters is that you just kind of put your foot in the ring and get going. So kudos for you. And I think that's amazing. And I think you're definitely going to get that triplex, quadplex.
I'm going to take a quick moment and have a ba-dum-ba-da quiz question for Katie Lyon. We've never done this.
Kelly,
I'm going to
terrible.
see if you got this, Katie. And those that listen to our show, think in your mind, do you have the answer to this one? So while Sophia is the first youth we have spoken with, she is not the first one on the show that started their real estate journey in their youth. So we have, that I'm aware of, 2 investors that have shared their story that both got started in real estate in their teens. Do you remember who they are, Katie, without cheating?
This is tricky, okay, you guys, because what you don't realize is I have a terrible memory. Terrible. I can barely remember my own children's names. And Kelly has the most amazing memory ever. And she can meet someone one time in a group of 100. And then 6 months later, she'll be like, oh, Bob, I know Bob. It's like this gift she has. But Kelly, I'm going to surprise you here. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm going to say RB and Justin Brown.
You did so good. Way to go, Katie. That was episode 17 and episode 24. So if you want to see when Sophia grows up, what her portfolio might look like, then go check out those episodes, because they're giving the perspective from their adult selves, thinking back to their teenage selves.
Nice.
Yeah.
I was going to say one other thing too, just on what we're talking about with Sophia and getting this education so early. I think one of the things we didn't have going for us back then, which we have now, and folks like you guys are to thank for that, which is all of the knowledge and education that we have now. The podcasts are so important, and that's actually where that whole conversation started with Sophia. I had been listening to a podcast where there was a teenager that was doing some extra jobs to earn money to try to buy a house, and Sophia asked me the question in the car. She said, "Can a teenager own a house?" And I said, well, first of all, never ask the question, can I? It's always, how can I, right? How can I do this? And then we started talking about it. And through that process of discussing it, she seemed emboldened and said, well, then all this money I've been working to save and invest, I'm going to put that toward a property then, because that's what you and mommy do. So let's do this. And so she came up with the Project 16 on her own. But the impetus for it was really that education and always exposing ourselves to as much podcasts and things as we can. So
definitely, that's awesome. And Trevor, while we're on kind of the educational side, I think you have y'all as a family have set it up where Sophia earns 10% interest. Tell us, has her own bank account. Tell us how the financing side works and like paying Sophia and those sorts of things for parents that are interested.
Yeah, for sure. So early on, Sophia started, like a normal kid, at 5 years old, wanting some toys, and And, obviously we would get typical toys for birthdays and Christmas, but then it started to get like, I want this, I want that. And we thought, okay, this is a great opportunity to start introducing the concept of money and trading money for things that you want. And so we started paying her an allowance at that point. We said, hey, here's $5 a week. And if at the end of the week, whatever you have in your account, we'll pay you 10% compound interest on it. I really wanted this idea of compound interest to hit home early on, because it was a concept that when I learned at like 30 years old, I was like, what? This is amazing. How come nobody told me about this? So I want to make sure she knew about this like much earlier on. And what happened was she started to really get into it and realize like, oh my gosh, instead of spending the money, if I save it, I make all this extra money, which is the whole point. But she got so good at saving that we couldn't afford to pay her interest anymore. So we were doing that. We said, okay,
girl.
You got to earn your interest like the rest of us. And so at that point, we started setting up an investment account for her and said, hey, look, here's what that looks like. And we went and had her buy a stock. We said, hey, what companies do you think are neat? She's like, well, we play Nintendo. And so we bought a share of Nintendo, and she got to get the prospectuses, and she gets a dividend. And so she kind of understands what that whole process looks like as well. And so we've tried to like figure out ways to leverage the allowances and those kinds of things to continue teaching these types of lessons, which has been pretty cool. And then Sophia just seems to have an aptitude for it too. One day she busted into the house and she goes, Dad, I need you to teach me everything that you know about economics right now. Okay, so we went to the whiteboard in a couple hours, and we're talking scarcity and supply and demand and all these different things. And the next day she, basically taught that back to her fellow students. So I think she just has a penchant for it as well, which is a pleasure to be able to be a dad of someone who just enjoys it so much too.
Yeah, for sure. And Sophia, what do you think about, just what you've learned about the finance side and the banking side from your perspective?
I've learned that there are lots of different ways to do it. He's told me about the different ways that like he was taught and the different ways she was taught. And they've said that upon like their long life, that very long, that they've been through a lot of knowledge and been through a lot of teachers and been through a lot of people who have told them a lot of things, and they think that real estate is the best path. And they've also told me different things, and we've also been like reading a lot of books about that, and some books were just a little bit too boring, and so they gave me summaries on that, which was very helpful. And what was that book? Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We read that, so that was really interesting.
Now, have you gotten the board game? Have you gotten the cash flow?
Good question.
I keep putting that on the cart and then like almost hitting it and getting distracted. But yes, that is 100% on.
Yeah, I want to get that for my kids too. But I think what you're saying, Sophia, is so cool because you have so many tools, right? Like you have these podcasts, and like your dad was saying, when we were all kids, we pretty much just had the information that was placed right in front of us, right? But the amount that you and your generation has, but that you specifically, you're taking advantage of it all, is podcasts. And like you said, if a book is too boring, you can look up a YouTube video about it, right? Or you could probably listen to a podcast video of it, or you could look up an article that summarizes it, right? So all that stuff is so cool, but it's only as useful as you use it, right? So you're putting it into play, and you're showing all the other kids in your generation, look what you can do if you actually use these tools we all have. So I think that's so cool, and I want to give you you're going to get so many kudos from me, but like an extra special one for that, just because, there's so many adults that don't take advantage of the tools. And I think that's really cool that you've made it so that you're really getting after it, kiddo. That's awesome.
Well, I am shocked that we have made it this far into the episode and haven't.
Is it my favorite question time?
Yep. We haven't even touched on Katie's favorite question, which is, let's talk about the portfolio. So I'm going to summarize it. And then Sophia, why don't you give us your breakdown of your real estate portfolio first, and then we'll have your parents jump in where they'd like. But if I understood correctly from our intro call, y'all have 2 long-term rentals. You have 1 BRRRR, 2 arbitrage, and 1 co-host.
Hey landlords, are you ready to level up your rental game and simplify your life? Well, get ready to meet your new best friend, KeyCheck. KeyCheck is your all-in-one solution for stress-free property management with tenant-paid screenings, rent payment processing, online lease creation with eSign, and a suite of incredible landlord tools. You'll wonder how you ever lived without it. No more chasing down checks or sifting through piles of applications. KeyCheck helps you organize and manage all things landlording in a simple and efficient way. So if you're tired of the rental chaos and crave seamless, efficient management, head over to keycheck.com and sign up today. Make landlord life a breeze with KeyCheck, the game changer for modern property owners.
I think that sounds good, and it sounds correct, obviously. Yeah, that's pretty much accurate. We also do a lot of other things, like we have the network that they've created, and we have a lot of ways we get in to do other things. Like we like to talk to other people and learn as much as we can, because the information is always changing, is what he says. And so they like to learn as much as they can. And they also always look for new properties. We make a joke that like every day they're looking at new properties to buy and new properties to put an offer on. And so they're always looking, even if they know they're probably not going to buy it. They're always like, you know?
Have you gotten into the looking yet?
Yeah. Yeah, I like to read articles and look at like videos about like what different people have done and how like what the cheapest way to do it is, because I only have 4 years, and 4 years is hard to make enough money for, especially the market we're in right now. Things are very high priced. So I like to hear about different people's stories, and there was this person who like was able to buy these like structures that you could put in the middle of like a camping ground, and then you could live in it. And like I thought that was really cool, because it was only like a couple of $1,000s to get the tools for that structure, and it came with like a kitchen and a bed and like a living room. It came with all of that stuff, and I thought that was really cool, because you could just spend a couple of $1,000s and earn a lot more than that for people who are like going camping and stuff. And so I thought that was really interesting. And so I am searching, but right now it's very hard to search without being like, whoa. It's crazy high prices in Nashville like right now. Like the cheapest thing you can find is like $700,000. And so, yeah.
That's pretty high. And out of all of your properties that y'all currently own, do you have a favorite, and why?
That's a good question. So yes, we do have the 2 long terms, and we have a third long term that we just are selling. And then we've got 4 midterms. 2 of those we own, and then 1 of those is a co-host, and 1 of those is an arbitrage. I think the one we're actually in right now, it's a 2 unit, and we're living up here while we do some renovations on our current property. But I just think this is a neat house because it's got really cool proximity. It's got this nice big yard. We typically live in the city, and it's a really, really small yard. This has got a nice big fenced-in yard. So I think that's kind of cool. What about you, Katie? Do you have a favorite?
I think the small and mighty property that always rents, are my co-hosting one. When we got it, I really was not crazy about the property. I thought, man, if I were to get in here and design it, because it was co-hosting, so the owner moved north. And I thought, man, if I were to get in here and design this, I would have done it so much differently. This isn't my taste. This isn't my feel. But that's okay. And so I've gradually been able to get the owner to do a little bit more and a little bit more and that sort of thing. But that place books like nobody's business.
Good problem to have.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the location, it's access to freeways and things, but it has taught us a lot about, how you can have a small but high performing property, one that you're like, isn't your showpiece, but it's getting the job done for you. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that one, it kind of surprised me. So it was,
It's so funny. We have a property that's very 90s, like oak cabinets, laminate count, like it's very, very 90s. And when we bought it, we furnished it and we did a couple of tiny little upgrades. I'm talking like we like replaced the cabinet knobs, like that type of tiny. We replaced one light fixture, and I had bought like a new kitchen faucet because right now it's just like the silver one that pokes out. It's like I don't love it. And there's a couple other upgrades I bought to do. We ran out of time when we were furnishing it to put that stuff in. So it's just been sitting in the garage waiting. I have not had a vacancy in 8 months that I can put it in. And I'm like, well, clearly I didn't need the faucet. But like in my mind, I was like, that faucet is hideous. It has to go. And it still will at some point. But it's so funny that the stuff that, you know, these tenants don't necessarily care about the little finishes. They care about, you know, the location and the proximity and, you know, they care about a lot of stuff. They definitely want nice stuff, but no one has minded the old silver faucet so far. So it's I can definitely relate to what you're saying.
You're reminding me about a tip that I just haven't shared on the show before. So, you know, remodeling, that's a big choice and cuts into your profit, right? So it's like, you have to make that decision. Is this something I need to remodel, or is this something that I can add to and preserve the value of? And so kitchen sinks is one that we have in our most upgraded home, but it is one of those white sinks that has started to kind of discolor in the bottom just from years of wear. And the cleaners have tried to attack it. We've tried a lot of different products. You just can't attack it. And it just still has a little bit of kind of like a little tint to it. So rather than having to replace the entire sink because it's still completely operational, it's like one of those awesome like 10 to 12 inch deep type sinks that a lot of people love. So instead, we just got those little silicone mats that you can place on top that you can set your dishes on and catch everything so they don't see the, you know, the discoloration of the sink. Everything looks proper and it still is very high functioning and adds kind of a cute little aspect to the sink that you don't always get to add. So little tips like that are always fun when you're thinking of remodeling or how can I improve this to make it look great for my tenants. Do y'all have anything y'all want to add right now about, well, wait. We heard Trevor's favorite property. We heard Katie's favorite property. We have not heard Sophia's favorite property.
I think my favorite is probably also Raycroft, the one we're in right now, because it has 2 units, and we have a downstairs unit, and even though we do have to keep very quiet, not to be too loud, I feel like it's just very convenient and super close to stuff. It's like 2 minutes away from a Kroger, a couple minutes away from a library. I actually just got my babysitting, not like a license, but I got certified.
Yep.
Yeah, you did, girl.
So I'm hoping that eventually they'll get someone downstairs that has kids who are
good thinking.
Look at you overlapping. You're like, I'm going to take this business and integrate it into this business. Come on, sister. I want to work for you when I grow up.
And do your guests give you the same courtesy? Are they respectful and quiet as well since y'all are sharing the space?
We haven't had any problems with that. I think we actually have a dog, Charlie, miniature schnauzer, and their breed is specifically very protective and loud. So they're either like super alert, running through a field, about to catch squirrels, about to really defend you, or cuddling with you on the couch. So one day he was out, like running around in our yard, and they came out. They always like seem to come out at the worst times. They're mowing the yard, or Charlie's out, or we're about to leave, or something like that. And so Charlie barked at them, jumped up on them, and he is really good knowing when you should like apologize for something and being very courteous to the guests. And the rest of us we're pretty good, but really good. So we need to buy them a gift card. It's got to be a lot of money. We should get them Starbucks. Like, the trash overflowing is unacceptable. Like, on it, she was like, "We're gonna get a 5-star review." So
and it's the heart behind those 5-star reviews, right? It's not just for the 5-star review. It's because you have that personality that really just wants to take care of your guests as best as possible, to have just that joy that you are being the best version of yourself in life, right?
Absolutely.
All right. So, Sophia, I have a question for you. Speaking of that, I want to hear about a time when real estate really challenged you, or when your parents had a challenge that you helped work through. So maybe it was a property you had to work hard or creatively to get rented, or maybe it was a hard renovation. What's a time when you're like, okay, this is a project that was really hard, but we as a family got through it?
You can tell it.
So,
Permission.
I could make the rest of this podcast about our many stories, but it's just a lot. This isn't necessarily like a rental property, but we have a house we own, and the maids probably accidentally locked the laundry door because they didn't know how to do like the lock and everything, and they spoke Spanish, so they didn't have our number really, and they weren't able to like contact us. And so we came home and they were like, "This is in Spanish." "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. We locked your laundry door." And then they kind of just left. And so we were like, so we actually got dinner, and we sat up in because we just moved in, no furniture in the house. And we were like, how are we going to do this? And they didn't have the best attitudes at this time.
That's life, right?
They were watching videos. How do we unlock a door? We don't want to pay for a locksmith. And so they were looking all of the stuff up. And I looked over my dad's shoulder, and he was like, and the person was doing video, "Here's a hack to open a door that's locked. Take this can and flatten it with a book for 5 days, and then cut it, and then slide it through the door, and then you have a key, and this gets through all doors." And he was like, "This is never going to work." And rolling through videos. So I went and I got I don't even remember. I think
I know exactly what you got. She went and got her own debit card from her own wallet, from her bank account.
I took it, and they were like, "Sophia, where are you going?" And I was like, "The bathroom." And they were like, "Okay." And then I slid it through. It opened, and I was like, "The door's open." And they were like,
"What?
Don't lie to me right now.
I thought it was a joke.
I am literally going to scream if you are lying." They came downstairs, and they were like, "You just saved us a lot of money, Sophia."
Creativity, girl.
Yeah, well, and I think they were supposed to deliver something or fix something in that room the next day. So it was like we were on a time crunch to get it done. And if we didn't get it done by tomorrow, we would have to reschedule the service call or pay for it, because we canceled at the last minute or something. I can't remember the circumstances, but there was an added layer of stress on top of it, and she just really
it was hilarious.
Came
now,
through.
If you need somebody to break into a door with a credit card, she's your girl.
It's life skills. It's life skills. And Sophia, I don't know if you have an official title as a part of your family's real estate team, but I'm going to propose that whatever title you get also has mood manager attached to it. In my family, we do a lot of our rentals as a family, but all of us adults. And my sister is the designated caffeine and happiness manager. So if somebody gets grumpy, like when we're furnishing a unit, if someone gets grumpy, she makes them go sit in the grumpy corner, and she gets them a coffee until they cheer up. So I now would like to designate you as the mood manager. And if any of your parents get crabby, you can be like, "You need to go to the grumpy corner." And you can remind them about your creativity and how you can get any door open.
I kind of already do that. I don't have
That's right, girl.
But maybe I can add that to the job.
Thanks for the idea.
Yeah, and charge them for it. Charge them. If they have to go to the grumpy corner, they have to pay $5 to get out.
That is
Project
a great idea.
16,
Yeah.
Moneymaker.
That's right.
My dad
That's right.
totally taught us how to pick locks when we were kids. It's an important role in case you ever need to like save your sister or something like that. So it's but they make it some of them are a little harder nowadays, and some of them are super easy, right? It's like the slits, you just put a coin in it. But back in the day with just the little circles, we would get the coat hanger and put it in there and twist it and like try to get the lock up in there. It was still pretty easy. And then he even went as far as back in the day, you had to use when you locked yourself out of the car, you had
Yes.
to use the little jimmy to get down in the window or a coat hanger and
Yep.
pick the lock
And
that way. So I'm with you, Sophia. It's important skill to be able to have for the right reasons. If you're a vandal out there, then this is not advice for you.
Exactly.
So let's go ahead and transition to, we've talked a lot about the value of teaching your kids finances and how to save properly, how to educate yourself. And I think the balance that a lot of companies get right is as you're learning those things and elevating your business, how to also give back in the charity side of life. So how do y'all teach the charity side mixed in with the successful business side?
Well, I think at about the same time that we noticed that Sophia was wanting more things, Trevor got excited and thought, well, this is an opportunity to teach finance. I got in my heart about it, and I thought, I need to teach gratitude, and giving back to others. So I decided, well, what we're going to do is do a service project every month. And we pick the service project, whatever that service project is. And so while he was working on the finance part of it, I was working on let's go serve in our community. What issues matter to you? What is on your heart?
Yeah.
So, we would see people on the roadside and things, because we live in the city. And so we would see people asking for money or whatever they need, right? So our church did a really cool thing where we all brought toothpaste or different things that people need, water bottles, snacks, all those things that we could actually make a bag and pass them out. And so we did that for a while for a service project, was to, every time we would see somebody, we would hand them something useful, And so that was really great. And then we also did, let's see, there was the shopping. So is it First Harvest that does the food truck? I forget who does the food truck, but basically they go around to grocery stores and collect food that, has a few days of shelf life left. And they'll meet at a certain location and you'll hand out bags and everybody gets to get X number of items to go shopping. And so Sophia would go and she would hand them their bags and restock the shopping area, so that they had food. And it was really great because we were able to say, not everybody has a full fridge. Not everybody has a full pantry.
Yeah.
Isn't it great that we have what we have and we can give back to other people?
Yeah, for sure.
Also, decided after a while, so the pandemic happened, and so we couldn't do those particular things as much. But before that, she was doing serving in the church, and we would go to the nursery and take care of the little babies. And I would serve with her because she was too young to do it on her own. And now she's signed up to serve herself. So she does that for one Sunday a month is what they ask for commitment. And so we, and I fly standby in case nobody shows, they can text me. But yeah, so it's been, really important for us to find ways to get back. And we do it financially also, but, just being able to put in your efforts and your time and your love into others, I feel like is also a huge part
for sure.
of having the right heart in things. So
Well, thanks for sharing that. Let's wrap up this episode with about 5 to 10 more minutes of the golden nuggets. What are your furnish finder or midterm rental tips? And if you use KeyCheck, feel free to incorporate furnish finder's landlord tools as well. And let's start off with the professional photo aspect. I noticed that you have definitely invested in professional photos. How did you choose your photographer? How much did it cost? And how did you make sure that your home was ready for those professional photos as well? Like, how did you design your rooms and everything?
Well, I'll let Trevor talk about the design because he
Okay.
is really, he's actually the one who's much better at that than I am. I will
Mhm.
help with big picture stuff, and he really is very good with
Love
the
it.
little details of things. So I'll let him talk about that.
Awesome.
But for the photos, it took us a few times
Yeah.
of using different professional
Mm.
photographers because people, would say, well, you can, just get a professional photographer. It's going to be great. It took me a while, and actually my broker had to explain to me what to look for when I'm looking at the photos, in terms of you want to be able to see what's on the other side of the window. Um, and if you know that if you don't do that, that the lighting wasn't correct, for that photography. I made sure to follow the photographer's suggestions with everything. And I wanted to find somebody that I could just trust that they were going to, move whatever they needed to move or ask me to do something. And I knew if they walked on the property, it was going to be right. And we finally found that person. I'm so excited.
Yay.
And we also got a good deal on it because I'm an agent. And so when we use them for a lot of different things. And so it works out really well for us. But
I will say, when I was looking through your listings on Furnish Finder, that is one of the aspects that stood out was how the exterior of the home popped through the window view from the interior. So I see exactly what you're saying in who you chose.
And I was just going to add on to that I think sometimes we all get into this when we like hire people for our businesses, whether it's a handy person or whether it's a photographer or whatever, just kind of making the assumption that like, oh, I've finally found somebody. I think it's super important. And then when they don't perform the way you want them to, you're like, oh, that sucks. Okay, I guess I'm never going to be able to find somebody. It's so important, I think, to find 2 or 3 or 4 people and then still make sure you're over communicating on exactly what your expectation is and then still follow them around. Like we had photographers that were like, we would look at their pictures and be like, these are beautiful, but there's no pictures of any of the bathrooms. Like nobody knows there's bathrooms in this property, right?
Yeah.
So we would have to go back and take those pictures. And so now we still, even though our current photographer, Jonathan, does a great job, we still have to be there and follow around and be like, don't forget to take a picture of this or don't forget that,
Yeah.
And he's now getting to where he does it, but we all need coaching, right? And so taking a picture to sell a house is different than taking a picture to midterm rent it. So
I'm a sucker for having the fan in the photo or not in the photo. So I remind them every time they come out of, hey, just a quick reminder, if you are going to put the fan in the picture, let's just get a majority of it. Because if it's one that just has a slight bit of the fan, I typically won't pick it, was one of the things that I remind them of whenever and I also like a lot of natural light, so I have them take some with the door shut and some with the door open just to kind of see the balance there. And which one I end up picking, I don't remember. Katie, what about you?
This is funny. I never get to follow the photographer around because they're 800 miles away. Our properties are. But I am lucky that the first one we tried was very, very good. It's also a smaller city that I'm in, or our rental properties are in. So there's not 100 photographers to choose from. And the one I chose I lucked out. He did an amazing job. And it was like the next day I had a Google Drive link and I was like, these are awesome, right? But I think you have to keep in mind, like you said, who your audience is. If it's a midterm traveler, they care a lot more about, okay, what's the bathroom look like? What does the parking lot look like? What's the entrance door look like? Versus show me a close-up of the pillow decor, right? Yeah. So a lot of it is, I think, just like you said, being very upfront and letting the photographer know, hey, I'm listing this for rent. It's not going for vacationers. It's going for digital nomads or travel nurses or relocating families. These people care about safety. They care about comfort, but they're not looking for board games. They're looking for a supportive mattress. And then that photographer, if it's a good one, can go, okay, I got you. And then they'll take pictures of the door to the building if it's in a building with a lock, or if it's a house, they'll show that you have nice lighted entryway, right? Like they can kind of put themselves in their shoes. But you do have to explain your expectations and what you want to show off, because you're not talking to another real estate investor or a landlord who just goes, oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about without talking about it. You're talking to a photographer, right? And the top of their mind is, you know, framing and lighting and exposure and all that. And you want to really let them know what you're looking for. But
the other thing that I make sure, and I learned this the hard way, if you're going to get your property looking really nice, then what I like to do beforehand is to post photos in Furnished Finder, like just a few photos, and then that I take, and put professional photos coming soon, because then I start getting those leads. And if there's a good one that's going to meet our timeline, I'll contact them and say, hey, we've got a property, you know, that matches your criteria. There, we have photos. I can also FaceTime you walking through the property. You know, we're having professional photos taken on this date. I'll be there. You know, what can we work out? And so, you know, opening that up, it's great when, you know, 2 days later after your photos, the first tenant moves in. And we actually had a guest move in before we were able to take photos in my favorite property. Because it stays rented so much that I thought, well, I'll just get some basic photos to throw them up on Furnished Finder, and it booked. And I thought, I'll reschedule the photographer for when, you know, on the next turn. And so we got professional photos now, and they look fantastic because we love Jonathan. And then the other thing I'll do when we have it all pretty is I'll go through and I'll take video of everything and put it up on our YouTube page. So that way the video matches the photos, because they were all in the same day, same light. And it's really nice to be able to walk through the property yourself. You know?
Yes.
So I'll send them the YouTube link so that they know I'm not trying to pull anything over on you. This is me walking through the property.
Yeah.
Or if it's a higher end property, I would have Jonathan do the video. But
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got two last points for the tips, and let's just cover them quickly. One, I noticed that you have a lot of color pop in your homes, and you have also mentioned that you hired a designer. So what tips has your designer taught you guys in regards to how to properly set up the home to attract that guest through the photos?
All right, so that's me. I can talk about that. So yeah, I mean, initially we actually had a couple of interior designers that we've used for a variety of different projects, either for our own personal use or for these properties. And what we found was, you go to a designer, a lot of times you'll say, hey, I've got a midterm rental. And they'll be like, you mean a short term? It's like, no, midterm. And they're like, oh, I can totally furnish that. But they don't really do it in a way that makes sense, like, because they do things like dressers, you know, like places to actually pack clothes. And so I think I've learned some different ways that you can use colors and the color scheming from working with interior designers. But I think you also have to add on your own thinking around, like, how can I make this place livable as well? Mm-hmm. So I always kind of joke, like, I'm really, really good at colors as long as it's gray, brown, or blue.
The blue. You threw some color in there.
Blue, gray, brown, all over the place, right? Like that's the thing. So I just try to kind of stay in my lane with those colors, and I can typically match, you know, the colors with the beds and with the pictures and all of those things. But I think that's a lot of fun. I'll tell you though, I'll give you my secret. The store At Home, oh my gosh, that is amazing. Like, you go in there and like all the home decor stuff, like you can find everything that you need there. So we used to do, like, we would try to buy it at estate sales, but we found that Sometimes it would cost us as much to move the furniture and then buy all the missing components as it was to just buy it new. We've also kind of learned that there's a couple of key pieces you really have to have in the property. And if you kind of think about how you live your life, it's like, where do you spend most of your time? I'm sitting on the couch. I'm sitting at the dining room table. All those places need to be very premium pieces. All the other stuff doesn't have to be premium. The bed frame, we get ours at like $200 on Amazon, right? The mattresses we do a little bit more because they're going to be sleeping in those, but the beds themselves have to. So we just try to think through some of those pieces, like what would they be using a lot of and be experiencing, and that's what we try to really spend some money on. So.
Excellent.
And the girls are like skywalkers. If we're at home and we can't decide what art we want or something, they tend to help us out with that. So
that's right.
That's a fun little piece to add into.
I've been finding lately that I think you're right. I've been starting with like the big piece, like, okay, let's start with the couch. Mm-hmm. And Kelly, you probably know because you're a little encyclopedia, but some guest recommended this to us. Maybe it was Justin Brown, who's like,
no, it was D. Colson.
Like, start with the first thing, like the biggest thing, and then revolve everything around that. Our last unit, we got a green couch. And I was like, oh man, I don't know. I am not an interior designer. I usually use one. And this time she was unavailable. So we started with the green couch. But you're right.
Green, right?
Emerald green. But if you start and you just go one thing at a time, like you can do it. You can pull it together and it can be fun. And the kids remind you to do that to keep it fun.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And the other thing I'll say is this. We've launched parallel properties pretty much all year long. And so you sort of get to this like efficiency standpoint too, where you're like, I'm going to make a spreadsheet and I'll just reorder all these same things, And so a lot of our properties, like that's the same bed and the same bedspread and the same pillows. You really get this economies of scale. If you can do, more than one at a time, it really can help with that as well.
Have you figured out how to do that at home? Because I have not, but I would love to figure that out.
We can probably I can source about 70% of what the home needs within about 2 to 3 weeks off of online or local, because we also have a local furniture rental place that does a really good job too, and we'll buy used things from them as well. So
is that Court?
Yes.
Yeah.
Court is great. We had.
Okay, so the last part that we haven't really touched on the home much, that is one of Dave and I's biggest points of needing to go to the property, is the exterior care of your homes. Because you guys don't have condos that I'm aware of. Like the 4 on Furnished Finder are all houses with well done yards and landscaping. So how are you going about making those landscaping choices, and who's maintaining the yards, and do you have built-in sprinklers?
Do you want a picture of me holding a really gigantic cactus part? Because sometimes we have to go at it ourselves. But it just depends.
Yeah, I mean, we try to be, we try to basically pick key people to help us with that. So we have a landscaper that you guys just heard. We leverage him for everything in a very specific circumference, right? And like he gives us great, pricing for that. Same thing with pest control. So we try to use the same people where we can, and they kind of learn our process too. Like, hey, it's not just the mowing, but if you can also touch up the bushes while you're there, that would be great. And if you get a bill list for that, that's totally fine. But that's your job to figure that out and decide that it's time to do that. It doesn't always work that way, but we try to make it work that way. We don't have built-in sprinklers. We try to tell them also, hey, drought tolerant, things that can basically live on little to no water, and if it dies, it dies. But like, let's just try to get something there that's pretty tolerant to people not watering it, because that's what's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So we just try to coach the people that we hire to help us make some of those decisions so that we don't have to when we're not there.
That's good.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's the one thing I will occasionally get the buy-in from our guests, is we only have 3 months really out of the summer that is super hot and needs watering. The rest get plenty of rain or don't necessarily need it because it's dormant season. So it's like, that's the one time we will just ask, hey, if if the grass or something looks a little sad, like if you don't mind just occasionally watering it like once a week, then feel free to jump in and do that. But otherwise, like you're saying, if something dies and you just have to replace it, or we were able to set up one of those top lawn automatic sprinkler systems rather than having to pay the thousands of dollars to get the built-in. And built-ins are amazing, but they also need attention. Like, it's not just like a do it and leave it. We had y'all are going to be shocked. We just had a $860 water bill. It was crazy. Ours are normally like 200 or so, I think. They're very low, but we had a sprinkler leak we weren't aware of until we caught it. And sometimes you catch it by watching your bill, right? And City of Austin gave us a rebate. Like, when we brought it to their attention, they actually gave us some money back. So it never hurts to call the city and see if they're able to do that. But this home, we're part of a MUD, and they just don't have those resources. So we had to eat the 800. But, it's like there's so many different ways that you can maximize and keep the value of your lawn keeping the value of your lawn is just as important as keeping it consistent with the interior of the home, right? Because people want to show up, and what they see in the photos is what they want to experience. Now, of course, there are seasons. Everybody knows that. But yeah, thanks. I didn't know how other people are doing it. We don't talk about it much on the show. Katie Lyon, anything you want to share on the exterior home care?
You guys, all of my midterm rentals are in condos or
Yeah.
townhouses.
That's great.
Because I'm long distance. So I know that is too much, lawn management and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The one property we have that's a single family home is long term. So it's like,
you don't have any lawn care. That's
right.
awesome.
So, but that was something where we had to really think about that, right? Because we knew that there's more appreciation and more profits with single family homes or with duplexes, triplexes, things like that. But at this point, it's not practical for us to be, that's too much for us to manage, right? Now, hopefully we'll get there at some point, but we're trying to be smart about this. And for us, that means doing what is realistic. And realistic for me is paying an HOA fee. That's $150 in the Midwest, because Midwest HOAs, there's nothing frilly. There's no big pool. There's no fancy fitness center. It's $125 a month or something. And you don't have to worry about the roof, the siding, the lawn care, the snow removal, none of that. So someday I'll have input, but today I get to happily opt out.
You want? Yeah.
I love that. I consider that every time we look for new properties. It's like, does the HOA outweigh the costs to take care of a yard for like a single family home, right? Okay, let's wrap up the episode with a fun conversation with Sophia, which is Katie and Trevor. They might surprise you. They actually love swing dancing and teach at Swing Dancing Nashville, which is amazing. So, Sophia, how did you decide you wanted to get into acting? Can we see your stuff anywhere, or tag any of your stuff on the show notes on YouTube? And then I think you're getting your sister involved with the real estate a little bit too. So what do you want to share about those aspects?
So with acting, at my elementary school, I had a teacher. She was the best teacher of all time. Unfortunately, she passed, but she was an awesome teacher. And she was in the acting community. And so she actually had a friend who I think she actually taught a little bit. When
she was her
little.
teacher, yes.
I don't think at that school.
No, not at the same school.
There yet, but she had a student that got into acting, and she was like, and she does horror films. The student, her name is Quinn Cook. She's very nice. She's my acting coach. And she needed a younger version of the main character. And so my teacher was like, oh my gosh, this girl looks just like you, and she reminds me so much of you. And Quinn was like, okay, we'll have her audition. And so I went to the studio, and they were like, you are perfect. We have you and another girl, so we'll get back to you. And I got the part, and so I did it with another friend from my elementary school. And so we did it. I was 8 at the time, and it actually still hasn't come out yet. You wouldn't believe how long it takes to edit a horror film because you've got so many different parts and special effects and things you sometimes need to redo. It's a lot. Like, they literally were like, so do you think we could have her back? Because we needed to film a couple other things as the thing. And I was like, well, I'm 4 years older now, but maybe you can make it a little older than the last flashback. But now, after that, she was like, well, you were awesome. Do you want to do acting classes? And they were like, yeah, sure. And then we did like a year of that. And then she was like, I think she's so good that she might want to get an agent and do it film acting. And I was
Wow.
like, yeah, I want to do that. And so we started with an agency and we started doing it. And I liked it a lot. It was hard though, being that young, like 9, filming auditions, because you basically have a backdrop, you have a ring light, you have a camera, and that's like on a tripod, and then you film it, and it takes like 3 hours to film, sometimes at most, and like 1 hour, about 30 minutes at least. And so that's a lot of time, and then you send it in, and then about 95% of the time, like, that's pretty much it. The other 5% is when they either ask you, hey, can you audition for this other character? Or we want you to come for a callback, or you got the part. And you got the part is about 1% of the time. And the 4% is just audition for this person, callback for that character you auditioned for. And so I'm still doing it today, and it's pretty awesome. I usually get cast as the mean girl because I'm not mean, apparently.
I think you said when we talked earlier, you said they cast nice girls as the mean girls to make them more relatable, right?
Yeah, I think so. And also
Fascinating.
to like make everyone feel a little safer, because
Yeah.
you don't feel safe when someone who's mean to you in real life is like shouting at you as the character. So they like to cast more nicer people for that.
Mm.
I just really enjoy that. So when I had the talk in the car, I was like, oh wow, people my age can do real estate and people in their teens can do real estate. I want to do that so I can keep doing acting. Because the truth about acting is, like, when you do it, you get a lot of money. Sometimes a movie you can get $1,000 at once for doing it for like a month or so. And then you have to wait like a whole nother year before you get another one, before you do it again, and then you get another $1,000. So it's like you have a lot of time where you don't get anything and you just have to audition and audition and audition. But then when you do get the part, you get to have a month as a break, and it's really fun. And you get paid for having a fun time, which I think is pretty awesome.
Yes.
So that's why I like to do it. So yeah, it's just hard sometimes. So I figure real estate is also really fun. And it's not the easiest thing to do, but I think it's the most reasonable amount of work you put in for making money, because it's kind of like acting, where you put in a lot of work at first and then you get rewarded for that work. But with real estate, you pretty much get rewarded over the course of as long as it's set up as a rental. So that's pretty awesome. I also do a couple of other things to raise money for Project 16. Like I told you, I got certified for babysitting, and so that was nice. I basically know how to save choking children now, and I know how to like have a business and stuff for babysitting. So I just ordered business cards and built a resume and stuff, and so now I do babysit my little sister who's 9, and so I'm really excited about babysitting, other children. So, yeah.
Well, girl, if you would like to fly out to Denver, you can babysit my children. I don't know if financially it'll be the most profitable situation given the cost of the flight, but experience-wise, if you can handle my 2 kids, you can put that on your resume and everyone will be like, oh, she can handle the Lion kids? Like, I will handle her. Or I will hire her in a heartbeat.
We actually just learned about Amazon FBA. It's basically where you can sell on Amazon and they can pretty much just handle all of the shipping. You just ship it to them. You don't have to handle any customer service, any returning the package, anything, any reviews. They pretty much just handle all of it. And you don't even have to make anything. You just buy it pretty much from like the clearance section and sell it sometimes for twice that price. And then you don't have to handle anything. And we actually read an article for someone who makes $100K a year just doing that alone, and someone else who makes like $6,000 a month just doing that. So
wow.
Yeah.
By the way, Sophia found that. She's queen of the side hustle. So that should be the title of this.
I am hearing that. Well, it has been such a pleasure talking with you guys, the Hawn family. Sophia, you are just an inspiration to all of us. And I said before the episode began, or maybe during, I can't remember now, we could have had an individual episode with each 3 of you. But I'm so thankful that we were able to do this as a family. And I think it's going to be a huge encouragement to a lot of other families out there. So if you do want to connect further or ask any of the Hawn family a question, or you have certain topics you want to hear about on our show, then please make sure and add them to the show notes on YouTube, and we circle back to them as often as we can and incorporate them into future episodes. If you're loving our show, please make sure and leave us a 5-star review on wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Bye. Thank you.